Yeah, sure, I'd love to see your holiday photos. In this episode, we're going to have a look at this Canon FD 35mm f2 S.S.C lens and see how it performs in our lens tests. We will also give it the CLV score at the end, so stay tuned for that. But first, let's start with its features and handling. The history of the Canon FD 35mm f2 lenses is a bit complicated due to the several versions of the lens. The S.S.C one was introduced in 1973. Although this copy is from 1976. There are 9 elements in 8 groups. The aperture range is from f2 to f22. It has 8 blades, and the aperture ring clicks at every half stop. Its minimum focusing distance is 30 centimeters, the filter diameter 55 millimeters, and it weighs 350 grams. Regarding its handling, the 170-degree focus throw feels smooth and nice. What really bothers me though is this FD lens mount. Maybe I just don't understand it, but I find the design with this locking ring on the lens irritating. Sometimes the aperture just won't close, even though the lens seems to be seated correctly. And on top of that, most FD adapters also have a locking ring, and sometimes the two somehow get in each other's way. It's a pain. Fortunately, the newer FD lenses have improved this functionality. I will be testing the lens on a Sony A7III and this Fuji GFX50S. On the latter's 44 by 33mm sensor, it's equivalent to a full-frame lens with a focal length of 28mm and a maximum aperture of f1.6. We start our observations by looking at distortion and vignetting on this Adobe camera calibration chart. We can see a small bit of barrel distortion happening. Vignetting is there but virtually gone at f4. Of course, you can correct both the distortion and vignetting in your editing software. But you could also use the correction profiles I offer for download on my Patreon page. See the description below the video for the link. Lateral chromatic aberration is there, but not very strong. Wide open, it's hardly visible. Longitudinal chromatic aberration is also not very pronounced, and by f4 it's mainly gone. When mounting the lens on a GFX camera, we can see that there are small black corners. However, when using a different aspect ratio than the native 4:3, they are not a problem. Now we're testing sharpness at infinity on the A7. There's only okay sharpness at f2 in the middle of the frame, but f2.8 and especially f4 look very good. About midway to the corner, resolution already drops a fair bit. Only at f5.6 to f8 sharpness seems good to very good. The corner is even worse. Okay sharpness is only reached at f11. You may have noticed that the shot halfway to the corner at f2.8 looks blurry. It appears to be motion blur. However, it seems to be a radial motion or something, as I do not see this in the shot in the middle. I don't know what to make of it, maybe you can. Please let me know. This plate is about sharpness at minimum focus distance. Resolution in the middle looks very good across the entire aperture range, apart from diffraction effects when closing the aperture fully. Only contrast wide open is a bit low. The corner also shows mostly good resolution, but contrast stays low throughout the range. Next up is sharpness at portrait distance. Here I can say the same thing I said in the last episode about the Nikkor 28mm f2, so please take a look at this video. I'll wait. No, just kidding of course. Sharpness looks very good across the entire aperture range, only wide open contrast is a little low. Here are a few examples of the bokeh. The bokeh balls are a little edgy, but in a uniform way, which I find quite pleasing to the eye. At the end of the technical tests, we now have coma and sunstars. Coma is present, but still quite well controlled. At f2.8, it is basically gone. The sunstars have 8 rays, as expected, with 8 aperture blades, and look nice. Now let's check out some sample shots I shot with this lens. This time all of them were shot on the Sony, but I hope you enjoy them nonetheless. Now it's time for the CLV score. For handling and features, it's a 5, mainly because of the awful mount. Aberrations are kept relatively under control, therefore a 7. For sharpness, it gets a 6, a 7 for its bokeh, and also a 6 for its sunstars. Value is only a 5, since 300 to 350 euros for a used copy is a little on the high side. This means that it scores 36 out of 60 points, putting it in last place in our table so far. Thanks for watching.